Have you ever felt like you have all of these beautiful planner systems in place, but somehow you kind of get into this rut, feeling kind of stuck and unmotivated and just generally not really feeling like even using the tools, or just having like just being really unclear of why you need those tools in the first place? Well, if you are having any of those issues, then that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going to kind of discuss and go into detail what to do if you hit a planner slump. First of all, we're going to look at like what it is and why it happens, and then some of the best practices that I have found that has been really helpful in my life. That way you can kind of get right out of it as quickly as possible. So if that sounds good and you're feeling stuck within your planner system, then just stay tuned and let's just dive right into the video. And of course, if you are brand new and this is the first time that we're meeting, well, hello, how are you? My name is Meshi and I am the person behind Align Plans. We chat a couple of times a week on this channel and we talk about anything and everything, minimalist planning, budgeting, really anything and everything that kind of goes into loving stationery and fountain pens. But ultimately the intention behind this channel is to be a little bit more mindful and more intentional with the way that we use these tools so that it actually enhances our lives rather than just kind of clutter everything up. So if that sounds good, then you should definitely hang out with me here. First and foremost, I wanted to kind of talk about briefly what it is. So we're going to be making some notes today. Drink of the day. The drink of the day today is from Tombow. This is their wild orange tea, and it is mixed in with this lemon soother. And as you can tell, my voice is kind of raspy at the moment. I am recovering from a cold. A little bit of honey. It's absolutely divine. I cannot recommend warm tea enough. There's something very magical about it. So first and foremost, let's talk about what is it? Like exactly what is it when you hit that planner slump? Now this will manifest as different things for each of you, but for myself, I kind of just feel frustrated. Flustered. Generally feeling unmotivated, and unmotivated not just to fill out my planner and update it, but it just feels like there's nothing exciting. There's nothing that's really asking me to keep coming back. You might also feel stuck. And you might also find yourself just looking at, here's the kicker. You might not actually know that you are in a planner slump until you kind of look at the signs itself. So you might literally just look at like all of the different new systems that are kind of coming out, and you might not actually recognize this as you might be in a planner slump until you start looking at brand new planner systems. Like somehow there is like a problem that you're trying to solve, but you can't quite pinpoint what the problem is. You can't really kind of pinpoint in any of your planner systems what's really like wrong with it, but like something feels off, right? So that might be an indication. So that might be an indication in and of itself that you might have hit a form of a slump, and that's not, in my opinion, it's not necessarily a bad thing. When we kind of hit like a low point in our lives, whether it's going through a challenge, an obstacle, or we're facing, any type of challenges in life, or something that just feels uncomfortable, to me, that's always an invitation to kind of like have the courage to kind of look at it and see what lies beneath that. That's without really getting too deep or too technical, but really there is like deep wisdom that kind of lies underneath the surface of that uncomfortableness. So if you learn to sort of sit with it a little bit long enough for you to be able to kind of discover why you feel a certain way, then you can kind of get to the other side of it. But we will definitely talk about how to kind of get out of it. Now let's talk about why it happens. Now that's without me actually knowing anything about your planner system, and that's without me really knowing anything about you or how your mind works. But usually what I have found in the past is that the reason why it happens, so this is a double-edged sword, and I already know walking into this that as soon as I say it, somebody will kind of mention this also as a pro, so just kind of stick with me. But sometimes it happens because we spend too much time on comparing ourselves to someone else's system. So comparison, oh my goodness, I can't write. So comparison can be a wonderful thing, but it can also be the very source of your sorrows, because then now we're setting the benchmark that someone else has set that made sense for them. And if you're not able to obtain it or maintain it or hit that level, whatever that level seems to be, then it definitely makes you feel like, okay, like why even try? I have definitely felt that before, where I might have a true clarity of how I want my spreads to look like and how I really want to set up my planner, but then I get really stuck when I see another planner channel or Pinterest or anyone on YouTube that has a totally different planner system than me, and I'm trying to mitigate that. I'm trying to kind of compare myself to them, and I never seems to measure up. And I think that there's a reason for that, but we're going to leave that one alone right now. But really, like, the underlying thing is that comparison can be the very source of what will kill your creativity. Next up is no clear use for our tools. Now, what I mean by that is there isn't really true clarity around the purpose of that notebook or the purpose of that journal or the purpose of that planner. So like the number one thing that I have found that has helped me, and you will find this too if you have multiple planners, multiple notebooks, multiple journals, that you need to give them a job. If you don't give them a job, then it's sort of like you're asking that one tool to fulfill multiple purposes, and there is never really like a sense of clarity of what you bought it for in the first place. Because sometimes, like, and you have to be kind of honest with yourself when it comes to reflecting on this. Did you just buy it because it looked pretty and you're going to go and spend some time later on figuring out what the purpose is? Or did you buy it with intention? Now, I'm not saying that it's wrong if you bought it as an impulsive purchase, but what I am saying is it's definitely good to start that practice of being more intentional with how you spend your money and what you purchase, just simply by giving it a job. Give it a job so that it can actually start fulfilling a purpose in your life rather than just taking up space. Because otherwise, then you're, as quickly as it came into your life, it's literally, you're not giving it the job that it actually needs. Lack of accountability. So this could be as simple as you might be the type of person that is not highly motivated to kind of use your tools every day or to finish a task every day. You might need a lot more freedom than that. So you need to set up these systems in place, such as an accountability buddy who will kind of hold you accountable. And whether you make it public that this is what you're going to do, or you talk to a friend who's going to regularly check in with you, whatever pathway you take when it comes to that, you need to know this about yourself. If the reason why you're not using the tools that you have around you, is it lack of accountability? Because sometimes, and actually most of the time, most of us have a real fear of feeling a sense of shame when we don't kind of uphold to our word, right? So that public accountability can be a very, very powerful motivator. So like the one thing that you kind of have to ask yourself is, do I need to be held accountable by other parties around me? Or do I have that self-motivation that, you know, that I will complete the task or I will kind of return back to my tools and use them regularly? And of course, the next one is kind of obvious and we sort of touched on it. Things become stagnant. Now, when things become stagnant, that could be that you're using the same decor, the same stickers, you're using them the exact same way. You might feel like you do, you actually don't. Why things become stagnant? sometimes things become stagnant because you've had the same things for a while, or you're simply just not aware of how you can use those tools like in a totally different way, which kind of goes back to losing creativity, right? Or maybe another potential reason why this might happen is because your planner system really doesn't support your needs. So what that means is you might have, let's say, a common planner, but you actually hate setting up your spreads every day. And you have a Hobonichi cousin, but you find that it's too overwhelming or it's stress inducing for you to fill out the daily pages because that's way too much space for you. Or you might have a bullet journal, but you really don't like setting up your own spreads. So that kind of goes back to the same thing with the common planner. Or you might have a ring bound planner, but then you really want to decorate. So see what I mean? Like, you need to be really clear about what systems you put in place, and then does it actually suit your lifestyle? Because sometimes we get so caught up in this idea of planning in a way that others are using those tools, or having like this aspiration that we should somehow fit into how others do it, right? So you really want to spend some time, be honest with yourself, and just keep in mind that there's no right or wrong answer here. And the more honest and upfront you are about what you enjoy and what you actually enjoy interacting with the most, the easier this whole process becomes, and then the faster you can kind of get out of the slump. Now, speaking of which, okay, what are some best practices? Remember how I was mentioning that looking at other people's stuff can, like this whole thing with comparison, it can kill your creativity? Well, sometimes what we need to see is, instead of looking at how they're using their tools, search for ways to utilize, new and creative ways to utilize the tools that you currently have. This will accomplish basically two things. One, it will reduce the urge to actually buy or consume more. So you're not going to be inspired by buying, you know, more stickers or more washi tapes or that sticker set or like whatever. And the other thing that it does is it shows you a new way to utilize the tools that you already have at hand, right? So, and that sometimes like that, having that refreshment, it can make a world of a difference, because then now you're looking at the same tools that you have from a completely fresh set of eyes. So you just want to kind of tread lightly here, because what you don't want to kind of dip into is that you compare every single thing that you do to how others do it, and meanwhile that system that you put in place is actually not working for you. So you kind of want to do that with, you know, just do that with just tread lightly here. Okay, next up is another best practice is to get clear on your needs, which we kind of just touched on. So getting clarity around what your needs are is essential, because sometimes you might find that you need more notebooks for brain dumping, or you need like lots of space for writing because you write quite large, or you need something that is more portable and more easy to kind of carry around, or you need multiple inserts that kind of take care of both your mental health as well as organize different aspects of your life. So being really clear about your actual needs before we kind of start shopping for a system can be an essential. It can be essential. It can be one of the first steps that will kind of start getting you out of the slump. Beyond, this is assuming that, you know, you're not really lacking creativity, but you're just really finding that the systems that you put in place is really not suitable for you. Next up is, and this we're all kind of guilty of because we end up doing this in January, set new goals. And different goals. Start setting different goals that kind of helps you to kind of return back to your planners, to help you return back to your planner system when you end up actually looking forward to it. Allow that to be the motivational tool to kind of keep you on track, but then also to kind of fuel your motivation to actually finish those goals. Sometimes when we go into this slump, it can be because we really have no reason to actually update it. There really isn't anything new that's happening. You really don't want to kind of process your emotions. You really don't want to use it as a journaling ground. You really don't want to kind of write in every single appointment. So sometimes when it comes to setting new goals, it can be attached to utilizing your planner in a different way, or it can literally just be a new goal that you set for yourself that is short term, like it's for the short term, so that you end up tracking it and you allow it to be like this new source of inspiration and a new source of motivation for you to keep returning back to your planner system. And again, I mentioned this at the beginning, but I really wanted to stress this so that it kind of drives it home for you, is don't get caught up in comparison. Don't get caught up in comparison, because honestly, we're each very unique in the way that we use these tools, and it's okay to know that about ourselves, because what works for one person might be completely overwhelming for another. So just make sure that the way that you know that a planner system is actually working for you is because it brings you a sense of inner calm and inner peace, and you end up looking forward to using that tool. If it brings you a sense of stress and anxiety and overwhelm, then you know that you need to kind of tweak something in the process and kind of make adjustments as you go. There's no such thing as, you know, you're winning something or you're failing at something. Is just simply feedback to see how things are going. But if you're finding yourself constantly comparing your system to other people, that it should always be better, like really, like at what benchmark are we really measuring planner success, right? Because sometimes you could have like the best, most beautifully created spread with all the details, but really at the end of the day, that person might still be struggling, right? That person might still be struggling mentally. That person might still have, you know, things that they forget. So being really clear about how your mind works and what type of feedback you need is going to be key. Like, I kind of look at a lot of the tools that are available right now, some of the things that get sent in like sub boxes and things like that. And honestly, some of them are fantastic, while others are like, it's an easy pass for me because it just feels really redundant. But I know that others will find that super useful and helpful. So just kind of keep that in mind, that not everything that kind of comes on the market is a must have, but then also not everything. Yeah, that's like my main point, is to make sure that like the tools and the systems that you're putting in place are actually suitable for you. And I know we kind of talked a lot about that, but that's sort of like the main key takeaway, that sometimes we get into the slump because, especially when I find that this happens around from summer into fall, or like when we're kind of closing off a season. And so, you know, just being aware of that there's going to be a lot more temptation that kind of happens. It makes us really reflect very strongly on like, what are the systems that we're putting in place? And it might make you question, is this still working for you? Do you still want this? And it's okay to take a pause. It's okay to take a break. Allow your planners, allow them to actually be something that's missing from your life, and that you end up missing it, versus something that you feel obligated to fill out. And also, you know, you don't always have to use every single accessory and every single tool all the time. If you feel like it, if you feel inspired to use it, that's great. If you don't, there's no pressure, and there's no like right or wrong way of doing it. And I'm telling you this not because I don't think you know this. Intuitively, I think we all kind of know this. But it's because sometimes we need to hear it from someone else to kind of give us permission to make mistakes, to give us permission to be imperfect. There's always like this expectation, especially through the help of social media, that everything needs to be highly curated and everything needs to be perfect and posh and on point and perfectly lit all the time. When in reality, the main thing here is that you use the tool and it's actually helping you. Right? Like, are you dumping your ideas in here? Are you utilizing it the way that it inspires you? And if you are, then that's great. Then it's fulfilling its purpose. But if you're not, If you're just kind of doing things because other people are doing the exact same thing, then you might actually be mistreating that tool for something that it's not. And then you might always kind of walk away from them feeling not so fulfilled, or you're just feeling disappointed. And the answer is not always buying more. You can kind of, if you need a switch up, sometimes we do need a full-blown switch up of like new decor or a new notebook or whatever, and that's okay. But knowing that, and you know, you can do it in a way that it's not like super expensive. You can do it in a way where you kind of trade with other planner girlies in the community. I mean, there's 1,001 ways that you can actually allow this to kind of, you know, you connect with others rather than just constantly buying things. That's my little rant on planner consumerism. This is all I wanted to really share with you. I hope that you have found this helpful and useful. If you did, obviously you can support the channel by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. You can also look into the membership, that the new membership platform that I'm offering. See if it's in alignment for you, especially if you love reading and you love getting early access to certain videos, and I think you guys would really enjoy it. But just the fact that you're hanging out with me here today, I so appreciate you guys. Hope that you enjoyed it, and keep planning, keep journaling, keep using these tools because they really do have the ability to change your life if you let it. And I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye.